Imagine trying to solve a water crisis by building a glacier from scratch. Sounds a little out there, right? Well, that's exactly what's happening in the high-altitude deserts of the Himalayas. This is the incredible story of the ice stupa, an idea that is as simple as it is brilliant. Let's dive in.
So here's the big question, the one that probably popped into your head right away. How on earth can a place filled with ice and snow run out of water? I mean, it just doesn't seem to make sense, does it? You see these huge, beautiful mountains covered in white and you think, water, no problem. But here's the twist. The problem isn't about how much water there is. It's all about when it shows up.
And that brings us right to what's known as Ladak's water paradox. It's this really tricky puzzle that's all thanks to its super unique, high-altitude desert environment.
Okay, so picture this, Ladakh. It's what's called a cold desert, and it is way, way up there. For thousands of years, the people there have depended on these massive, ancient glaciers for water. They're literally the region's lifeblood. But here's the problem we're seeing all over the world. Those glaciers are shrinking. And for the farming communities in Ladakh, that is creating a huge, huge problem, especially in the spring, which is, the most important time for planting.
And this really gets to the heart of the paradox. In the winter, you've got all this water flowing in the streams, but it's totally useless because it's frozen solid and just runs off. No one can use it. Then, bam, spring hits. April, May, exactly when they need water to plant their crops. And what happens? The streams are bone dry. The big glaciers way up high, they're still frozen solid and haven't started melting yet. So you have this absolutely brutal mismatch. Tons of water when you can't use it, and no water when you desperately need it.
So what do you do? I mean, how do you fix a problem like that? How could you possibly save all that wasted winter water for the spring? Well, that exact question is what led a local innovator, a man named Sonam Wangchuk, to come up with a solution that is just, it's ingenious.
And here it is. Say hello to the ice stupa. At its core, it's a man-made glacier. The whole idea is so simple, it's genius. You take all that winter water that was just going to waste, and you freeze it into this giant cone of ice. And that cone shape, that's the real magic. It's designed to have the smallest possible surface area facing the sun, which means it melts super slowly, releasing water gradually right when the farmers need it most in the spring. It's just incredible.
Okay, so how do they actually build these things? You might think it's some super complex, high-tech process, but it's not. It's all about simple physics, which is so cool. First, they run a pipe from a stream that's way up higher. Then, just by letting the water flow downhill, gravity does all the work. It builds up a ton of pressure in the pipe. No pumps, no electricity, nothing. And at the end of the pipe, they have what is essentially a sprinkler. It sprays that high-pressure water out into the freezing cold winter air, and boof, it freezes almost instantly. They just let it run, and layer by layer, this massive cone of ice just grows and grows.
But, going from a "that's a great idea" moment to actually building a giant, stable ice cone that works, well, that wasn't exactly a straight line. It took a lot of trial and error, a ton of experimentation, and years of refinement to get it right. So let's take a look at that engineering journey.
So they kicked things off back in 2015, and they were testing everything you can imagine. What kind of sprinklers work best? How do we need to insulate the pipes? And over time, they made some really big changes, improving not just the physical structure, but also the way the whole system was controlled, all based on what they were learning out in the field.
Now, this is one of my favorite parts of the story, because it shows how they learned and adapted. Their first attempt at a frame used these big, heavy iron domes. And for a cover, get this. They used thorny sea buckthorn bushes, which I'm told were an absolute nightmare to work with. But then they had a breakthrough. They switched to using local materials, these flexible sticks called talu, and wrapped them with simple thread. This was a total game changer. Suddenly, the stupas were way cheaper, much easier to build, and a whole lot safer for everyone involved.
And the innovation didn't stop with the structure. The tech got an upgrade too. At first, they were using this manual three-way valve system. It worked, but it meant someone always had to be keeping an eye on it. So they upgraded to a four-way valve. Now this might sound like a small change, but it was huge. It allowed them to automate way more of the process, which made the whole system run much more smoothly and reliably. So after all this hard work, all this tweaking and perfecting, they didn't just have a solution that worked for Ladakh. What they had created was this incredibly tough, adaptable piece of technology that was ready to be shared with the rest of the world. And just look at this. The idea has exploded. We're talking Switzerland, South America, Mongolia, Kyrgyzstan, all over the place. This beautifully simple concept that started in a single region of India is now helping communities all over the world face similar water challenges. It just goes to show you how a really good local solution can end up having a massive global impact. So what's the big takeaway here? For me, it's this. We live in a world that's always looking for the next big, complicated, high-tech fix. But sometimes the most powerful answers are actually the simplest ones. They come from just looking at nature, understanding it, and then using that knowledge in a clever way. The ice stupa is just a perfect, beautiful example of that, of human ingenuity working with the environment, not against it.
And that's what I want to leave you with. This whole incredible project started as one community's answer to its own, very local crisis. It really makes you think, doesn't it? It makes you wonder what other brilliant, simple solutions are out there, right now, in other communities that could be the key to solving some of our biggest global challenges.